So now we are going to look at what the project structure for a blueprint project looks like. So as we have seen before, we have now created that space blueprint over here. And I've already mentioned that this is now going to be just a traditional project within the current space. So within my projects, I now have my demo blueprint project over here, right? Which has a source code repository in the same way that you would want to have that from a usual blueprint. You can also see that there's some description around it. You can also see that this is deferred from a blueprint builder project. So this is a blueprint, right, which has been updated 2 hours ago. So this is something that the Amazon CodeCatalyst team maintains. You also see that over here we have a source code repository. A source code repository, it has the blueprint for demo, and within that source code repository, which I can obviously clone and edit locally as well, I have a whole setup of the project. It's as it said. You can see that this comes from has a progen RC. You can see that there is over here in the source file we have the wizard configurations and the blueprint TS. We have static assets, which is an example of for this blueprint, and the most important piece where you actually will be starting to develop the blueprint is going to be in blueprint.ts, because this describes how the result of the blueprint is going to look like. And if you remember from the previous meeting, this has the options as an example, describe the wizard information, right? So if you look at this, where we are creating a project from our blueprint, you will see that here you have the environment title area, you have the account information that are being selected, you then have a nested input, a nested hidden input, or you have a drop down over here, right? And this is essentially what is described in this options interface over here, where you do have the environment settings. You then have a nested piece, which has certain information added as tags, and it then has the drop down over here. Then down here you will see that we have an exported class called blueprint, which extends a parent blueprint. And this is now where we're going to define on what is going to be the contents of our target project. In this very simple example, and we're going to deep dive into other possibilities and variations later, you can see that here everything that is in the static assets directory is going to be copied, right? This static asset is a class that is exposed by the blueprint SDK. And it reads all of the files in the static assets directory. In our example, it finds all of them, it iterates through them, and it creates a new source file within the source code repository that I created up here, and copies them over there. Down here you can see the workflow builder, which is actually building a workflow, which is going to be, this is my first workflow. And it's going to be triggered on the main branch. You can also see the actions that are being added over here. And this workflow builder is then used to create a new workflow. Now, with this workflow, let's see if we understand after using the blueprint on how this kind of combines into the project that we have. So I'm going to just go back to where we went to create project. I'm going to create a project out of this blueprint, and we're going to see, look at the results. So I can now see the workflow by clicking on create workflow, the workflows that are being created over here. As you can see, this is really what we saw over here with do something in an action, right? This is exactly what we see over here. We are then also able to go back here and see the actual code that is going to be produced, with the name of the source code repository being code, the workflow, including our workflow definition, and the def file, the main py, and the markdown Markdown. And this is the powerful thing of blueprints as well. You can see what is going to be rendered as well before you actually then use that. So you know what you get, right? So now let's click on that. And with that, we're going to see that this is now behaving just as a standard blueprint that we know from before. But it is using our piece of code that we just created a few minutes ago. And I think this is really a very good starting point for building up your own blueprint. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about composable blueprints and how this custom blueprint functionality can be used to actually create complex project structures in one go, right? So in this project now, we see, as I said, there's a source code repository, which we named code, which has been created. There is workflow that has been created. This is my workflow. As it looks like, I've integrated an arrow over here, which is okay. The reason here is that I've set up an environment name, but I've not really matched that up into any deployment targets or things like that, right? Because my inputs were wrong for the blueprint. I will also see now that this is coming from this blueprint, right? Which obviously I only can then edit because I'm an administrator for this space. But once again, this is really now a true project. So now what we see in the projects over here is that we have our demo recording create from blueprint, which is a standard project, and we have our demo blueprint down here, which is actually blueprint, the blueprint project that we can also edit. So this is the overview on how the blueprint projects at the end look like. I'm now going to pause and stop this recording, and we'll work on the next video where we're actually going to implement our first change for the blueprint. I'm going to talk a little bit about the developer experience there. And if you have any questions or anything you would like to know in more details around this one, please let me know. And you know how to reach me, or add a comment to the video over here. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.